We also, I also remember asking you about because Solarjo and Sumiharjo, they also
Mm-hmm.
had an exhibition also at the National Museum
Mm-hmm.
in Singapore in the 1960s for Solarjo and Sumiharjo. Were you aware of that exhibition, and can you tell me a bit about your interactions with
Yeah,
them? Yeah,
I was aware of this
yeah.
exhibition. I was sort of interested, especially the Batik exhibition I will attend, and so also other exhibition I do attend. You know. After that, we become a good friend. Yeah, so besides Sularjo, Sumiharjo, Amri, Bambang, Utoro, Bagong, Kusudiarja, yeah, we become close friends. And in fact, I organized an exhibitions, all of us. That was where the first exhibition. Sularjo, Sumiharjo. Was it probably in the museums,
Okay.
Yeah.
For
Sularjo, oh yeah, all of them, yeah.
all of these other artists lah.
Yeah. Because they do also demonstrations at the museums, yeah.
Between between your friendships with the Indonesian batik artists, and then also were you also close with the Chinese batik artists like Sakimju and
Yeah,
people like that? Uh, was what kind of interactions was there with them?
I will say it's more of a friendship, more
Yeah.
friendship. And I was quite close to almost many artists,
Yeah.
Chinese, Indian, whatever, because I don't know, I like people, I like, so on. So I will go with them, and even with the modern art society, so I will be always with them.
And do you remember what kind of exchange, what kind of questions you all will discuss with each other about batik technique and?
No, not much. I think one that I discussed about batik technique was Kim Ju, and not but almost like friends, normal friends, yeah. Like Chito, Lim, yeah. Lim from Johor and so on. We were close.
Yeah.
We were often together.
But mostly as friends, but
Friends, not
not
in art.
really discussing
Yeah.
technique or making work together.
No, no.
Okay. What do you think, right? Why do you think batik was so popular in the 60s and the 70s? And then, what do you think of Chinese artists also making use of batik to make art? Because they are Chinese, and batik isn't really something that is considered a traditional Chinese art form. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, why do you think batik was so popular? That even Chinese artists was making, and then what do you think of Chinese artists making batik art?
Uh, I feel that the word batik itself is something that not being used in presenting art. So when batik in art, then the interest was there. So everybody would like to know, why, how do they batik in presenting their artwork. So that was interest. And then another thing is this, that art collectors or art lovers was also the same. They think that it is something different, something new that may be able to go on as really one of the technique in art. So that was one of that. And I think why the Chinese artists doing their artwork in batik, I think they are the one who really so enthusiastic in the case of looking for alternatives. So there were groups of them, like Sia Kim Ju, Chua Teng Teng, Chu Keng Kwang, that goes into batik technique. They went to Kelantan, Terengganu, and some even went to Indonesia to study there. So they were the first batch of artists that are doing batik work. Yeah. Even in Kelantan and Indonesia, they were not using batik technique as representing their artwork. So this group of Chinese, Singapore and Chua Teng Teng and so on, they are the one who started it. And then the Malaysian, like Yusof in Kelantan, who is doing batik work. So is also in Indonesia, Amri Yahya, Bagong, Bambang, Sularjo, Sumiarjo, started to do artwork. So actually, it's the Singaporean artists who started to do, because Singaporeans are fast in getting the trade into commercial world. So we are very fast in looking at it. We are looking maybe 2, 3 years, 5 years in front of us, rather than, to be at the same place in a stagnant. So that is how it started. And Sia Kim Ju's work was collected all over. Chua Teng Teng was, everywhere. In fact, Chu Keng Kwang, the butterflies and so on. It's just everywhere. Yeah.
In 1980, Culture Ministry actually commissioned designs for. They wanted to create a Singapore national dress. And in this first attempt, they focused on the design of the dress itself. So they commissioned Singapore designers such as Tan Yong, Alan Chai, or Thomas Wee. The Ministry of Culture actually say, okay, because of public feedback, they decided to not continue with this design competition, and they will continue to seek feedback to see how they can improve on the ideas. So I think a few years after that, I think it was maybe you mentioned
President Ong.
Mr. Ong Teng Cheong, yeah. And in 1989, then there was the NTUC Textile Design Competition, in which you also took part. And they had the design brief was as long as it's orchid motif, anything with orchid. And I think your batik design was one of the ones that was featured in the Straits Times photograph about this competition. So here you were using batik. When you were painting this, were you also thinking that batik itself can be representative of a Singaporean culture style?
Batik cannot. Batik cannot. I think there are different reasons as to why batik cannot be used. Singapore is of multicultural and also what do you call it? We are of not only Malays, So we have got so many other ethnic as to be in Singapore, and the time of when we are doing it is also the time that we are challenging with T-shirts. Everyone on the streets, young and old, use T-shirts. And you think batik would become, it won't. Even during Singapore function, they use t-shirt. So how, no? And they use shirts, normal shirt and so on. They don't use batik. So I feel at that time we cannot make it as a national. The idea was right as to mix material, but the dresses anyone can do. You can baju kurung, whatever they can do, but using the textile.
At one point in time, you were painting for fashion, for dresses, yeah, painting your batiks. Huh? So, from doing painting on the street, to having gallery exhibition, and then now in 1978 to paint for fashion, do you think that these different settings, whether it's art batik or fashion batik, do you think that these settings changes the meaning of batik? So, for example, when you were painting fashion batik for dresses, right? Were you coming back to the traditional function of batik for wearing?
Uh, I'm always aware of it. For the work that I do, when I call it batik, somehow or other, it has got the value of batik, the Javanese batik. For example, maybe a little bit of 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 lines, yeah, okay, is the traditional batik, the work. So even in dress, I would have certain portions of that with that traditional understanding of what batik is. And I won't forget that it's all like in my work, If I can show you the work behind here, yeah. All those lines and circle has a meaning in batik design. So that's why I said I always have the batik design onto it, like what I'm using, This is batik classical design, but presented in a more contemporary way. So it is, the circles are bigger and so on and so forth. It should be small. So this is actually kawung. Kawung is a cross sections of fruits. Yeah. So this actually is seed. The big circle is seed. So whatever I do, I will always incorporate batik traditional design, although it is presented in a contemporary way.
Is there a difference between Javanese batik technique and other kinds of batik technique? What does it mean for batik to be Javanese?
It's the design, yeah, the design, and also the culture, social culture that makes it Javanese. Yeah. Now, design can be copied. Malaysian also copied Indonesian design, yeah, classical design, yeah. But it is it batik or not? That's the knowledge of the society as to value what batik is. Batik was even known as mystical textile, mystical. They use it for religious, other beliefs and so on. Use that. And why why they use it or they call it mystic, So it has got mystic. Did I mention about the first mother to be 7 months? They are being swayed by batik material, and this batik material is individually has meaning to it. For example, even words of wisdom, some even like Chinese, happiness, longevity. So they are also, but they use these 9 pieces of sarung to sway the mother to be. So one after the to be. So that is the socio-culture of the community at that time. Singapore used that culture in the very beginning, of Singapore, but slowly it erased because Singapore believed that it's Hinduism. Hindu belief. It's not Muslim, so we don't use that. For example, when the baby was born, it's been actually received by sarong. So when they carry the baby, also with batik. So almost every occasion, before birth, after birth, and then as a baby, then growing up until you use as a, and then when we pass away, batik is being used. So that is sort of the culture that the Javanese or the Malay. See now, it is here Malay, Muslim, and Malay. Malays maybe in those days we call ourselves Malay, but now we should be a Malay Muslim. We cannot use Buddhism, design into the Malaysian or Hindu culture to be used by the Malays. So if we use, we are not. This is why there are many culture has already been banned in Singapore because they are depicting the Hindu and the Buddhist and But now I don't know after that. But I think we still have that. We don't use. But in Indonesia, the Hindu culture is still strong, even with the Muslim community. They will still give offering, but they do go to mosque, So that's in Indonesia.